Welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. Well, let's talk about the environment. Air pollution is a global emergency situation affecting everyone. Approximately 7 million people worldwide die prematurely each year from air pollution. According to the 2018 World Health Organization report, more than 28,000 people die from air pollution in Ghana every year. So the Environmental Protection Agency has already served notice. It will, from June this year, which is of course this month, clamp down on motorists and motorbikes which emit smoke-forming pollutants from vehicles as well as the motorbikes. This is the story we brought when that announcement was made.
Dangerous fumes. Exposure of carbon monoxide can cause headaches, dizziness, nausea and fatigue. Overexposure, however, could lead to death. Unfortunately, many vehicles and motorbikes in the country emit such poisonous fumes which can harm lives and the environment. With transportation being a major cause of air pollution in Ghana, the World Health Organization estimates that air pollution kills an alarming 28,000 Ghanaians in a year.
Air pollution today kills around 7 million people globally, and that is very much the case for Ghana and for Greater Accra region as well. In particular, for Greater Accra region, the initial estimates derived from the collaborative effort of the Urban Health Initiative show that every single year about 2,000 people die due to air pollution-related conditions. And what does that mean? Which are the diseases affected by air pollution? These are respiratory diseases, but also cardiovascular diseases, myocardial infarction, stroke, also lung cancer, pneumonia, particularly for children, but also for adults.
In densely congested traffic, drivers, passengers and pedestrians are exposed to a cocktail of harmful fumes. Acute respiratory illness caused by air pollution is one of the top 5 causes of outpatient hospital visits in the country, according to the Ghana Health Service.
Sometimes when people die and we are doing post-mortem, when we cut them open and we slice up the lungs, you see black dots in the lungs, telling you how much of these things they have inhaled over the course of their lifetime.
However, from June 2019, the Environmental Protection Agency says it has an elaborate plan to deal with the problem. Ebenezer Apa Sampong is Deputy Director of the agency.
But we've been working to introduce some motor emission control systems or programs in this country. The first block is to do the studies which we have done to develop a standard for vehicle emissions, and fortunately that has been done together with the Ghana Standards Authority. So now we do have a national standards for vehicle emissions. Your vehicle will have to go through some remedial process to ensure that the engine is fixed, and then before you can be brought back onto the road. The standard certainly will be adopted this year, hopefully in June.
One of the greatest challenges the human race is confronted with is that of global warming and climate change, which is mainly caused by emission of dangerous gases, with exhaust gas known to pollute the air more often due to the increase in demand for the use of motor vehicles. In the world at large, Ghana has a lot of work to do to achieve SDG goal of ensuring good health and well-being. Henry Kwesibedu's report for JoyNews.
Well, we're also talking about other things when it comes to the environment, but Ghana will be joining the rest of the world to mark this year's World Environment Day on Thursday, 6th of June, 2019. The EPA and the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation will embark on a week-long outreach program to sensitize people on the harmful effect of open burning, vehicular emissions and air pollution in general. I have in the studio Mr. John Pomang. He is the acting executive director of the EPA. Mr. Pomang, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for your time. We're hoping to have the Ghana Health Service as well, so we can do this, alongside each other. But let's start with you giving us an idea of the EPA's mandate. So we all assume that the EPA is about environment. So generally we talk about environment and we don't really have the specific ideas of what you need to focus on. What's the EPA's mandate as far as environment?
In relation to this particular topic of air pollution, our main mandate is to try to set standards, to control pollution.
It's not just air pollution. I'm talking general environment.
Generally, if we want to summarize our role in the country, we are an environmental regulatory agency. And our main task is to make sure that activities which will have impact on the environment, we make sure we regulate them in such a way that their impact will be minimized. And if there are impacts, the proponents of those activities are made to put in measures, to address those impacts. So that's the summary of what they're supposed to do as an environmental protection agency.
The EPA's mandate. A lot of people, when you mention the EPA, a lot of people have a lot of skepticism. They think that the EPA has not lived up to its mandate. So let's begin with this, the plan to deal with the fumes from these vehicles, like the story that you've just seen. We're told that the plan will be rolled out in June. Share with us, what really is the plan?
Yes, the plan is that we have been doing air quality monitoring for quite a long time, and we found out that the air quality along road corridors is the worst. So that means that the vehicles are the source of that kind of pollution. So we took it upon ourselves to make sure that we put in measures to address this issue. So working with other the stakeholder agencies, we've been able to come out, as you heard from my colleague, with standards, because that is key. What will we say a vehicle is, what we use to determine that a vehicle is emitting excessive amounts of certain pollutants. It's not just by looking at the amount of black smoke that is coming out, but we should be able to measure. So we have got to that point where we have developed the standards now. And you are aware that in this country, the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority, DVLA, is the regulatory body for regulating vehicles.
Roadworthiness
of vehicles. But in the past, roadworthiness of vehicles was only linked to other factors apart from the emissions. Now we have the equipment. DVLA also has acquired the equipment. We have the standard. So we are now working with the DVLA to make sure that we set some fees, because when people bring their vehicles in to test, you have to charge some fees. And then if you go above the limit, what should be done? It means the vehicle will have to be taken off the road. It won't be given the roadworthiness. And there are certain remedial measures that the driver or the owner of the vehicle will have to do before it can come back. And we see in setting these emissions, these standards, we have been very careful. Because if you look at what we have in the system, if we set them in a very stringent way, we may end up all having to walk, because you will find that many of the vehicles may have to fail. So we are setting it in such a way that progressively we will tighten them. And so that's why we had to do a lot of studies initially to find out what is prevailing in the country. We went around the whole country, did studies to find out the diesel vehicles, how much they are emitting, petrol vehicles, what the levels they are emitting before we set these standards.
Can you share with us the levels they are emitting and what is the allowable level?
Those details, in fact, I will have to make reference to the standard to be able to...
So I believe this is a standard.
But you see, the standard has so many components of it. Even how to conduct the test, it's also included in the testing. The standard. The equipment that you will use. The engine, when you bring the engine, it has to be warmed up to a certain level, a certain time, maybe a certain number of minutes before you can test, and all that. So all these are included in the standard. But the most important thing is that the arrangement between the EPA and the DVLA to get the testing started is what we now have to work on. And we, looking at the two agencies, even up to the board level, to have those discussions, so that the testing can go on. And then at least we hope that as we go along, air pollution from vehicular emissions will be controlled. But there are other sources of air pollution apart from these vehicles. We have what we call the indoor air pollution, which is very serious because it affects very vulnerable groups like children. When we cook with biomass like charcoal and firewood, we emit a lot of smoke and other pollutants into the indoor environment. And the indoor pollution is more dangerous because it doesn't dissipate very easily. Like the vehicles you see, the smoke comes out and then it can disperse more readily. But indoor pollution tends to stay within the indoor environment and causes more problems, especially for young people. So with that, we are looking at clean cook stoves. And this year's World Environment Day is actually, the theme for this year's World Environment Day is on air pollution. And we are looking at trying to introduce clean stoves. We are actually, getting them in such a way that we can give them free to households. And we have done quite a lot. I think millions have been distributed so far. And we are getting the second lady, who is the ambassador, for the Clean Cooking Initiative, to come and participate in the World Environment Day, to drum home the importance of trying to have clean cooking stoves in the the households.
Okay. So I believe that with these standards that you put together, we are working with the DVLA, and your one of the directors said, your deputy said it will start in June.
Yes, right.
Has it started? We're already in the third day of June. Oh, sixth day actually of June.
So I mean, we are now gearing towards celebrating World Environment Day, which will be on Thursday instead of the usual 5th. 5th is going to be a holiday, so we are moving it to the 6th. But we have already started the discussions. As I said,
with DVLA.
With the DVLA.
What are they saying?
Well, the only arrangement now is to try to get some fees, approved, and the fees have to be approved by Parliament, which have been submitted already, and we are hoping to get a green light because.
That's going to take another long time.
No. The fees have already gone through, but I think since 2016 we submitted them, but there have been some delays in considering them because of various issues. But we met last week again to defend them, and we hope that that will be approved very quickly. So we don't.
What are these charges? What are these fees you're looking to attract? What's it about? So if I go to the DVLA with my vehicle and I want to license, or I want to go for my roadworthiness,
your roadworthiness, yes.
And then they will check whether my vehicle is emitting fumes allowable or not allowable.
Exactly.
And then at what point do I pay?
As part of that test, you pay for that test. When you go in to renew your vehicle, there are various fees that are collected. Okay. But this one will be an additional one, which you have to pay, and we want to make sure that it is in a way that at least it's reasonable, and that it will not cost much.
Why are people having to pay for the EPA to be able to do it?
It costs money to procure the equipment. It's quite expensive. There is a one for diesel vehicles. There's a separate one for petrol vehicles. And so maintaining this equipment, needs some amount of money to be able to continue. Otherwise, we will not be able to sustain it.
How much are people expected to pay?
I'm not sure about the exact figure, but it's not.
No, I mean, based on what you have forwarded to Parliament.
It's not. I won't be able to know the figure off my head because we submitted so many figures, but it's not something that is out of the range.
So let's say between 100 and 200 cedis?
Maybe even less, less than 100. It should be less.
Okay, so let's say 20, 40, 50?
20 to 50 cedis, something like that, in that range.
But people are expected
as I said,
to pay.
I'm not very sure. Let me put that on record so that when the fees come out, I won't be quoted.
Because these are going to be imposed on people. I mean, people have to pay whether they like it or not.
But, it's for a good thing because, air pollution is creating a lot of problems. What we get out of the vehicles, the motor vehicles, is that some of the components are actually toxic. In the past, we used to have lead in our fuel. Luckily, Ghana, we have been able to phase out the lead. There used to be high levels of sulfur. We used to have, 3,000 ppm of sulfur in our fuel, in the diesel. The petrol used to have 1,000 ppm. We've worked with the Petroleum Authority, and we have been able to reduce the sulfur levels to 30, which is quite a significant reduction. So the clean fuel is also another factor which will help to improve upon the vehicular emissions. Because in the past, the fuel was very dirty, and so to say.
All right. Well, let's say we've done enough of the air pollution. There's one other thing, and you said already from the beginning that your work is really about protecting the environment. There's this story that we did about fecal matter and how it is discarded. And we know that the story that we did, that particular story, which I'm going to show to you right now, is not an exception. It is something that we do a lot around here in Ghana. I'll bring you to the discussion, but first of all, let's take a look at this report put together by Maxwell Agbaba. Bring you that story shortly. We don't have it at the moment, but whilst we wait to bring that story, because I want us to talk specifically about that. Let's talk about flooding in the city. What from the EPA's perspective, the linkage between the way that we're treating the environment and the flooding that's killing people?
It is. Yes, the flooding. I think the flooding. There are so many factors, responsible for the flooding. The drainage system in general, is one of the main factors. And, we have a whole agency, the Hydrological Services Department of the Ministry of Works, and Housing. That is their main duty, to try to make sure that drainage in the country, is well serviced such that water can flow when there is rain. But one of the major factors which have been responsible for flooding is actually, the plastics. There have been a lot of plastics which we discard indiscriminately into the environment, and these have actually helped to block some of the waterways. Also, there are things you can point to in terms of people building to obstruct waterways which are illegal, and so the need for the regulatory agencies, not only EPA but the district assemblies, as well as also the NADMO, to make sure that some of these projects don't take place, and when they take place, these buildings are brought down to clear way for water to flow when there is a heavy downfall. So the flooding is a serious problem, but there are various aspects to it. So, EPA, if we deal with projects that have what to call, they have to go through the environmental impact assessment. So if somebody is putting up their private residence, for instance, it doesn't require environmental impact assessment to build your private residence. But you require a permit from the district assembly. So for instance, if the building is taking place in the AMA, you need a permit from AMA to put up your private residence. And sometimes when these are not properly regulated, and they block waterways, many times they, because it's something causing environmental damage, the blame always comes on EPA. The matter you are talking about, fecal matter, for instance, fecal matter, for instance, is the work of the district assemblies for that matter.
It is the district assembly that is dumping the fecal matter in people's farmlands, in lands, because they can't find places to dump them.
Yeah, so they are required by law to do treatment. So this story, I hope we can see it, because I haven't watched it before. But it's something that we can pick up quickly with that assembly and make sure that they put in measures to treat their waste.
I think it's the Efutu municipality, the Efutu municipal assembly. But we can get you that report.
It's not, because they have to put in the treatment facility. They are not very expensive treatment facilities. You make a pond where you go in and discharge the fecal matter for it to spend some time with air, and then it gets a little digested, so that when whatever will be the supernatant which will flow into the environment will be less toxic. And these are not very expensive, just require space. And they should do their planning in such a way that they can get space in the outskirts of their districts to develop this kind of facilities.
They are dumping it on the road, on the Accra Cape Coast Road.
We will take this out. We have an office in Kaswa which is responsible for that Efutu area. So this matter will take it up quickly, and we will make sure that whatever we do, we'll let you know about the outcome, because it's not acceptable. Fecal matter, if it is treated, can be used for soil conditioning, but at least it has to be treated before you can use it as fertilizer. You can't take raw fecal matter and go and be spraying on farms, because there are potential to spread diseases in doing that.
I'll have you take a look at this story, and then we'll continue our discussion. We'll continue and end our discussions from there.
This is MMDAs. They have a difficulty in disposing of this liquid waste. Efutu, it has been the process that we dump into the sea. Now we are dumping into farms, open lands for farming as a manure. So that's what we've been doing. And not that we are directly dumping onto plants and seeds. No, we are very comfortable doing that. But our monitors, every quarter we are monitored from our region, Cape Coast, coming to look at the way we dispose of our liquid waste, especially liquid waste and other solid waste. So the advice that what the practice is not very good. Hygienically, it's not very good. So we should rather find a better way of disposing.
Way of disposing it off.
Yes.
Any ideas from the EPA?
What they are doing is, because there is an example of what the AMA is doing. I don't know whether you are aware of the Achimota. You know, there's a lorry station at Achimota. On top of it, they have these ponds. What they are disposing there is a septic. It's from people's septic tanks. You know, it's not because it's not raw excreta. If it's raw, it won't flow like the way you can see from the pictures. And this is not difficult to treat. You provide a space where you pump it into and then allow it. Maybe it's not only one pond, a series of ponds. So from one pond, it will flow into the next, into about 3. And finally, you get something coming out which will not be so, you know, toxic. And also, the material which will come as a dry form is, you know, very good material for farming, but not in this form. So we'll work with the FUTU to make sure that they do the right thing. The main thing is to try to acquire the land where you can set up these ponds for the treatment of the, you know, septic, as we call it.
World Environment Day, as we're going to celebrate, and I'm ending our conversation with that, as we celebrate it on Thursday.
Yes.
Really? Yep. What is there to celebrate?
Yes, you know, we are focusing on air pollution, and we say we are focusing on air pollution because it's a very serious matter. You know, the pollution of air is affecting so many people. So the global theme is air pollution, and they have a slogan, together we can beat, you know, air pollution. Ghana,
are we beating it in Ghana?
Ghana, we have adopted that clean air. And on clean air, we have adopted the slogan that clean air, our, you know, lifeline, our shared responsibility, and we say together we can beat air pollution in Ghana. Yes, we are doing a lot. You know, we are distributing clean stoves, clean cook stoves, and the second lady will be there at the AMA hall. And then we are working with the fish smokers in Jamestown to also introduce some of the commercial, you know, clean stoves, because there are commercial ones and there are household ones also. And we also be in Agugloshi tomorrow, you know, to work with our colleagues there with the scrapyard, who used to cause a lot of problems with burning of electrical cables to
They're still burning it. That's how they work.
So we have a new law which will enable them to sell the cables together with the covering, the plastic cover. You don't need to burn them, and you still earn more money.
But those who are selling, those who are buying it will still have to remove those.
There are machines which will do that for you now, so you don't need to burn at all.
Okay,
if you were getting 10 cedis for the 1 kilo, we'll give you 12 cedis together with all the covering, and you don't need to burn. So there's a good incentive for them to stop doing what they're doing.
And you're going to Agugloshi tomorrow to have this engagement with them.
Yes.
Do they have the understanding that they will be able to sell their cables without burning them?
Exactly. All the arrangements are there, and I believe your team probably will be there to, you know, join us and show them what is going on. Yes.
Right. Mr. Pomang, thank you very much for coming. John Pomang is Acting Executive Director of the Environmental Protection Agency. We're talking environment and we're talking clean air. That's what we're told the theme for this year is. So Thursday, try to keep the environment healthy. You know, don't be dumping those things that you've been dumping, and hopefully we'll have a better situation. Now, momentarily on the show, we're telling you about how people who live around the disaster area in Circle have been coping 4 years down the lane since people died from flooding. And that's all because of the way we are treating our environment, what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. Mr. Pomang, thanks once again for coming.